The 2025 Hyundai IONIQ 5N is an outrageously quick EV. Why is it the best performance car for a family? We'll explain.
Here's how much the IONIQ 5N costs.
This is like a fun and friendly version of sporty.
Well, I think a lot of the sport cues, by the way, come away from the steering wheel. Like you got this little blue and the red, the buttons. It's like, oh, something's happening here. There's a driver-centric cockpit light design. You could add a bunch more crap to this, but it doesn't need it.
There are some bits that are dressing it up, like the materials on the door, the lighted elements. There's a lot of practical storage in here as well.
The phone zone has this pit. If you put something in here to charge, your phone's never coming out of that, which is cool. Multiple USB-C ports. Center console has a little bit of space there, but this center area with the little flip-out cup holders, really practical. And we discovered that you can use the space between the cup holders as a cup holder. Retract all that stuff, and you can put larger gear in the center.
These bottles will never interfere with the HVAC controls, and there's a spot for a large bottle in the door.
The manually adjustable Alcantara appointed front seats, great lateral support, and the bolsters in no way impede my arm movement, unlike some sporty cars. There's no adjustable lumbar support, but I find the static positioning works just fine for me. Front seat heating and ventilation comes standard. When you're on a track and it's hot, it's really nice to have that ventilation. I do wish there was a dedicated button for that purpose. Here you have to push the button down here and then go into the screen and activate it, but that's a small sacrifice to have a cooled. We've got knee pads on this center area here, and yeah, if you're flopping around, it's nice to have something a little bit squishy there. With the front seat position for my ideal 5'10" body with the long torso, I'm an average American man, there is an outrageous amount of space in the back seat. We've got a completely flat floor, so not only do I fit in the outboard positions, but I fit very comfortably in the middle position. There's even a very generous recline function, and then you got standard vents on the B-pillars. Kiddo, as my favorite rear seat occupant, how do you find climbing in and out of the IONIQ 5N?
Easy.
For cargo space, we've got 26.1 cubic feet to play with. There is a small underfloor area, and I like how you can just cram the charging paraphernalia under there without, organizing it, and it stays. The load floor can be angled and stays in that position if you need to get access to the stuff that's under there. One thing we don't have is a spare tire. We do have a tire repair kit. Fingers crossed you don't get a tire slash. And then we also have a smart lift gate back there. If you have the key in your pocket or in your hand, stand back there for 3 seconds, and the lift gate will open right up. Eventually, I'll stop alerting you to this, but our daughter has outgrown the booster seat. Nonetheless, what's the latch situation?
The lower anchors are kind of nestled in, so it's a little bit tricky to install the booster. But I do think there would be plenty of room for a rear-facing car seat. One more thought about cargo, it is a 60-40 split, and you need to come around to the side to lower the seats.
But when they're lowered, that's a pretty flat load floor. I always think about this thing as being a hatchback, but Hyundai positions it as a compact SUV. And it certainly has that level of functionality. For safety, this thing rocks. The IONIQ 5 rates a 5-star overall for the NHTSA. The IIHS have named it a top safety pick plus. There is a robust suite of active driver safety technology, and we also have 6 airbags. Family, what do we think? Is the Hyundai IONIQ 5N family friendly?
With a base price of over $50,000, the IONIQ 5N is rich family friendly.
Rear window test. That's not all the way down, but high five anyway. Armrest test, driving in a comfortable 8 and 4. Because we got this little slidey armrest here, I have pretty easy access to the inboard armrest as well as the outboard. Feels firm on first push, but there's a decent squish factor. 85% inboard, 85% outboard. Onward to style. I love the look of the standard Hyundai IONIQ 5, the pixelated vibes, the hatchback essence. When you add the N treatment to it, with that rear spoiler, unique front and rear fascias, orange accents along the bottom.
There's that retro futurism. I particularly like the rear 3/4 angle. It's such a distinct shape.
Even if it's not your style, you do have to concede that it's taken a stand with its style. I love a vehicle that makes a statement. We also have 21-inch wheels and wider fender flares, which look cool, but they also provide function in that they account for a wider track for the IONIQ 5N. Cool looking and functional. That sounds like the ultra bendable, durable, lightweight flying eyes I wear. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Their thin design makes them comfortable under a headset or helmet and in daily life.
They're made for pilots, but anyone can wear them.
If you'd like to support our channel and if you're in the market for quality eyewear, click the link in the description below to learn more about flying eyes. If you're wondering about the color of our specific tester, it is Soultronic Orange.
Which totally sounds like a funk band I would listen to.
Soultronic definitely has a bongo player and a lot of wah pedal on the guitar. If it was my IONIQ 5N, I would go with Performance Blue. The blue matte paint really contrasts nicely with those orange trim bits.
But this is a really nice orange.
We do have electric car flip-out door handles, which oftentimes we dislike, but how have you found it?
The door handles flip out when I need them, they do so quickly, and they stay out until I no longer need them.
We're feeling positive about the style of the Hyundai IONIQ 5N, but what do you think? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Tell us in the comments. Also, thank you for supporting our channel. Whether you like, subscribe, maybe join our channel, perhaps you buy a pair of Flying Eye sunglasses if you're in the market for sunglasses. However you support us, if you do choose to support us, thank you. Onward to In Motion. We're rolling on an adaptive suspension. Depending on the drive mode, it can firm up or get a little bit softer. It's always a little bit firm, but it well should be because of the premise of the vehicle. Though firm, I find it completely acceptable for day-to-day driving. I also think it's pretty quiet in here. There's a real lack of engine noise. Unless you want it, we'll get to that in a second. For steering ratio, it's speedier than the standard IONIQ 5, but I don't find it to be too speedy. It just feels like satisfyingly prompt. And then for cornering, we've got Pirelli P0 tires, and as you come around this corner with a little bit of gusto, there is more than enough grip to truly haul. And what I like is that I do have a sense of what the front tires are doing through the steering wheel. I feel stuff. And as a jaded automotive journalist of almost 20 years, it's nearly impossible for me to feel anything. For power, we've got a dual motor all-wheel drive system, and as I get into it, that's plenty of power. And I like that you can dial it up or down as your needs demand.
Dial it down, bro.
Okay, well, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put it in eco mode. I am not joking. I put it into eco mode the other day coming back home, and when I left for my stop, I thought, oh no, the car is broken. That kind of casual throttle response will not work for me. Normal mode, for just normal driving, it feels plenty eager, but not too aggressive. There's a sport mode here as well. All this is happening through the drive mode button. We have another button over here. This is NGB, N-Grin Boost.
It also stands for Grimace Boost.
Like the guy who hangs out with the Hamburglar? Oh, that. So when I push this, I'll have 10 seconds. That's gonna increase horsepower from 601 to 641. Button is pressed. I've got a ready sign here in the gauge cluster. Little chirp of the tires.
Woo!
Boy, that is fun. We can control regenerative braking intensity with these paddles here. We can go all the way up to level 3 and then into I-pedal, which is a one-pedal driving mode. Let's see if the IONIQ 5N can come to a smooth Micah-like stop. Very smooth.
I could barely tell when it stopped.
Another trick of the 5N is that you can change how those paddles work from regenerative braking to fake paddle shifters.
Why would you do that?
Perhaps you're somebody like me who grew up driving cars with engines. You have an emotional connection to gears. Keeping in mind, it's an EV, so we do not have gears. Check this out. I'm going to accelerate. You hear that?
Wow.
What do you feel?
It feels as if you're making a gear change.
Interruption of power, and then it kicks
Yeah.
back in. It's emulating an 8-speed dual clutch transmission. You hear a little bit of fake engine noise as it's blipping the throttle, and then as I accelerate, this is silly. When I was thinking about the IONIQ 5N's essence, it reminded me of vegetarian food. People who are moving from meat want something that's very much like meat. Hey, it's like a steak, but we didn't kill a cow to make it. That's cool, but like, it doesn't have to emulate an animal. It could just be its own thing. EVs can be their own thing. This is what happens when people who drove cars with engines move into the EV world but need to be kind of eased into it. Nonetheless, I think it's a silly but fun gimmick. We are not just limited to natural engine sounds. We've also got evolution. It's like the sound of the future. And then supersonic, the sound of a jet. Silly, but fun silly. There are 8 speakers inside making that sound and 2 outside. When you do the gear changes, it's like using the back speakers inside to give you the sense that it's coming from the exhaust. I'm gonna turn that off now. At my day job at Kelley Blue Book, we did a video taking the IONIQ 5N to a racetrack. I didn't host the whole thing, but I did come in for a cameo. If you want to see me drift this exact car, watch that video. I will quickly go through some track-specific features of the IONIQ 5N. One, you've got this N-mode interface here, so anything you need to do that's performance-related happens through here. It can can pre-condition the battery for different purposes, drag racing, being on the track. It's got a drift optimizer you can activate that will help you sustain a specific drift angle. You can even use the paddles to initiate a clutch kick. When you're driving a gasoline-powered car, you can have the accelerator on, kick the clutch, and it'll create this driveline jolt to initiate that drift. You can emulate that here with a big torque kick from the rear motor. And last thing, I found this very validating. They specifically identify left foot braking technique in the functions of the IONIQ 5N. Every time somebody has left a comment in one of our videos, I can't believe you left foot brake, that tells me you know nothing about rally technique. As a guy who's attended the Dirtfish Rally School and many other schools, that left foot braking technique is super helpful for performance driving, especially in a loose environment or when off-roading. Thank you, Hyundai, for validating my left foot braking technique. While I'm talking about the brake pedal, the disc brakes provide supplemental braking, but because it's an EV, there's this great regenerative braking function, so the odds of burning down the brakes on this thing while lapping are very low. And now my favorite part of the video. In order to initiate launch control, you have to be in Sport Plus mode. You have to have the stability control system set to Sport or off. If we go into performance options, we can go to launch control. You select the grip level. I'm gonna go medium here. We're gonna activate it. Left foot all the way down, right foot down. Whee!
Wow!
Launch control, everybody. Yay!
I wasn't feeling nauseous. Now I am.
Good news, kiddo. It's 2 minutes between each launch control event.
Phew!
That's what I think about driving the Hyundai IONIQ 5N. What does Sweetie think? Evie's at the wheel. Leave with whatever haste you can muster. Oh, my.
Wow!
We always talk about confident power and intimidating power. Where does that land?
Based on your direction, I mustered a little more speed than I was actually comfortable with. But when I was just driving this around by myself, I found it manageable.
When I'm drawn to a performance car, the question is it also livable for somebody who doesn't necessarily want to drive that way?
Absolutely.
As you're cornering here, are you finding it to be fun?
It is fun. It's really responsive, but I didn't feel like I got out of control at any point.
The nice thing about a car with really high limits is that you will never exceed them.
Yay!
Sometimes in performance vehicles, the seat fits weird or you can't quite get the adjustment you need. Do you feel like you've got command of the controls?
I do, and I also appreciate that these seats aren't too far forward.
Oh, with the bolsters not getting your arms?
Yes.
And then what about visibility? Any challenges?
The only challenge I see is that over my right shoulder, that seat pillar's a little thick.
Thank goodness, blind spot warning comes standard. If we were in the market for an ultra high performance electric vehicle, are there any game killers that would keep you from driving an IONIQ 5N?
No game killers here!
I'm getting back in the driver's seat. Let's move to remarks. We have dual 12.3-inch screens under a single pane of glass, vivid digital gauge cluster, plenty of information, a lot of information over here in the infotainment screen. Also, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wireless smartphone connectivity comes standard.
I found this infotainment particularly easy to navigate. The icons are large, easy to read. This first screen is full of useful shortcuts, and the physical controls are easy to use.
I also like that there are 5 USB-C ports spread throughout the cabin. And now let's take a look under the hood in a test inspired by my buddy Brian. Unlike the regular IONIQ 5, the IONIQ 5N does not have a frunk. And if you're wondering where to put the washer fluid, there you go. In the beginning of the video, we teased we were going to explain why this is the best performance car for a family. Number 1, legit performance. Oh my.
Whoa.
It's supercar quick in a straight line and offers deeply engaging cornering. Number 2, it has a livable, spacious, flexible interior. 3, it's safe. Great safety ratings from the NHTSA and IIHS. Plus it offers a standard 360-degree camera system, which means you'll never drive over a bike. And there's a standard occupant warning system. If somebody's in the back seat, it'll let you know, and there's even a motion detector. 4, it's cheap. Going 0 to 60 in 3.25 seconds for only 66 grand is a real value. And 5, it's not just high performance, it's also fun. There's some silly stuff in here. It's a little bit playful, and I love that it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Me too. It's the rare vehicle that you and I agree on.
And if you're thinking, wait, is there marriage on the rocks?
Wait, is our marriage on the rocks?
Only in relation to the cars we like. Every 10 years a car comes along that we do agree on: Bronco, Mini, and now IONIQ 5N. All right, let's take a look at the engine choices. We've been driving the IONIQ 5N, big power. If you want a less sporty IONIQ 5, they have a standard range 58 kilowatt hour battery, rear drive only. There's also a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery offered in both rear wheel drive and all wheel drive versions. Regardless of battery type, you can go from 10 to 80% charge using a 250 kilowatt DC fast charger in only 18 minutes. At home, using a level 2 charger, you can go from 10 to 100% in about 6 to 7.5 hours, depending on the battery size.
Sweetie,
Uh-huh.
will you share our trim recommendation?
Only after I drive slightly too quick around this corner. Wait, our trim recommendation is which trim will give you the essential features you would regret not getting, but at the lowest possible price.
What?
The IONIQ 5N is an amazing performance car with all the features you'd need. But if you'd like a value-priced alternative, we'd recommend the IONIQ 5 rear-wheel drive SE trim. It's got dual 12.3-inch screens, super quick charging abilities, smart key access, and 303 miles of range. If you're ready to buy an IONIQ 5 of your very own, click the Kelley Blue Book pricing link in the description below to learn what your current car is worth for trade-in and what you should spend on an IONIQ 5. Competitors to the IONIQ 5 include the Kia EV6, Tesla Model Y, Ford Mustang Mach-E, and Chevy Blazer EV. Did we miss any remarks? If so, tell us in the comment section. And now it is our daughter's time to shine. Child, can you tell us what is your favorite part of the Hyundai IONIQ 5N?
The pattern on the car matches my socks.
Oh yeah, this little interior checker flag thing that's also kind of pixelated. Don't you like when you inadvertently match? Family, I think we've done a good job reviewing the Hyundai IONIQ 5. May I have a 5? And a 5. And you! Come get your high five. Bam! And now, please enjoy our AI-generated Hyundai IONIQ 5 Synopsis Song.
They see me rolling, but they just don't know. The buzz that I bring is electric, though.